Good morning, everyone. My name is Hendrik, and most of you will probably know me by now. For those who do not, I am a senior account manager at IT 101 Destiny. And just in case you weren't in the loop yet, since October 2017, we are proud to be part of the cloud telecom provider Destiny. Not to worry though, the entire team has made the switch, including Walter and me, of course. And the most important thing that will change in the shorter term is the color of the invoices, but that would be about it. For the rest, everything people, technology, the approach will stay largely the same. We might be becoming a little bit more communicative, as this webinar vouches for. For the Dutch listeners today, it might also be interesting to know that in March we acquired the Dutch brand Motto, known from the cloud telco ordering portal Flux. Also there, little will change in the short term, except that soon you will be able to get your loyal IT101 services there also, and that these services will soon be expanded across Europe and beyond on the cloud telco side of things. Then just a word about language, since we have listeners from 3 continents today. The explanation will be in English. I hope this is not a problem. If it is, I would like to tell you that after the webinar, we will send everyone a follow-up email with a summary and a link to this recording. We will do this to you in your own language, of course. Then final comment, final disclaimer, and then we get a running start. Most of you know us as your loyal Symantec distributor. What we are proposing today comes from our role as a trend watcher in the field of email security. So the solution here will lie in applying the right email open standard protocols, so the right expertise, some tooling, but it is completely brand neutral. So that means that whatever you are using today, this is useful. So, but it has nothing necessarily to do with Symantec technology as such. Well, let's start off then. We're going to talk about domain and brand name security. Slightly more correct term would actually be email authentication, but that didn't roll off the tongue quite as nicely. All right, let's start. Walter, take it away. Next slide. So, what is this about? First, let us look at what phishing is. Phishing is a type of fraud where a swindler, a cyber criminal, tries to obtain sensitive information such as your username, password, credit card numbers, and things like that, login credentials to abuse later on or to force payments. Think about the police email scams from a couple of years ago where you got a mail saying, okay, we have detected God knows what, everything ranging from illegal documents to child pornography, and now we have locked your computer and you have to pay up in bitcoins. But the email that you actually got and where you had to click the link to activate the virus, well, that actually was a perfect case of traditional phishing. When there's just a request for payment or just a request for login credentials and things like that, the problem is that your email gateway and your firewall and your endpoint security will not, in fact, stop them. There's no malware in the email and there is no malicious web link in there, so it is technically considered safe. And because these emails are sent in low volume, they will not be seen and stopped as spam. So that is why this particular type of attack to your network has become so very popular as of late. Just 2 particular forms of phishing that would require some extra attention, and then after that we can continue on with the solution, would be spear phishing and whaling. Spear phishing is a phishing mail specifically aimed at an individual, an organization, or a company. So these would normally be better prepared and also be in the language used in that organization or by that group of person. And it's spear phishing that would be behind most of the malware breaches via email today, some numbers later on. These types of emails are also used to install malware, obtain sensitive data, or carry out financial transactions. Whaling then, a very specific form of spear phishing aimed at an individual at the C-level of the company. Preparation of such emails is often a lot better, even specifically designed for one person, and the impact is usually a lot greater. I think that most of us, this is 2018, most of us will have already seen examples of these kind of emails. And the purpose of the presentation today is to explain that there are, in fact, ways to stop this type of attack. And this is new in security philosophy, because you will not only be protecting your own organization, but you will also be protecting other organizations from being sent fraudulent emails apparently coming from you. So in fact, you will be protecting other businesses, you will be protecting the broader audience or other your customers or your suppliers, and thereby be protecting your name, your domain name, and thus your brand. And that is why we have called it brand protection. The protocols we'll be talking about are DMARC, SPF, and DKIM. We will explain later what these are for. But just to bear in mind that today you actually have no certainty that when you receive an email, it would come from the person it claims to be coming from. Look, we're all professionally engaged in security, but this is not something that you can expect from all your employees. So they will not always have the presence of mind to click further and look further into the mail if it is legitimate. And this is something that you simply cannot expect from your employees. In any case, spear phishing is omnipresent. Not only do we see that the threat itself has become very prevalent, it accounts for about 91 to 95% of all successful email attacks. So the result is comparable. We see an economic impact estimated in the billions. Final question before we continue on. Do you today have a view, 100% view of everything that is sending emails out using your name? And I am even talking legitimately. I'm thinking of Xerox printers sending out scans in the name of your organization. I am thinking of a marketing tool that you might be using. I'm thinking of maybe some specific web applications that you are using, different domains, different companies, recent acquisitions, things like that. Do you have a 100% clear view on what is mailing through your name? Before we go to the next slide, it's also just want to point out that you can in fact ask questions and should feel free to do so. There is a questions tab on the thingamajig that appeared when you logged in here. So if you have questions, click on that, ask your question, and we will see it pop up here and treat it as quickly as possible. All right, next slide, Walter. All right, example here. This is just one example. Do feel free to take a look at websites that offer loads of examples. For the Benelux, a very interesting one is fraudehelpdesk.nl, which is a monitor website for all phishing emails in the Netherlands, lots of them in Belgium too, on behalf of well-known brand names, retailers, large retailers, and worldwide names. Look, as this is a great example of what we are trying to stop here. Compare it with what happened in the past. In the past, letterboxes were forced open, the invoices were stolen, they were counterfeited and sent out again. Same invoice, different bank account number. Very cheap way of actually mugging, robbing companies. Well, nowadays, instead of the letter, it's an email that is intercepted, but the process is in fact entirely the same. We have this example of Katoen Nazi. It's a very recent example from earlier this year, where all Katoen Nazi clients received their invoices as usual, only the bank account number was changed. The invoices were executed. I do believe that the losses are calculated at about 80 million euros, which is a nice piece of work if you ask me. Also taking into account that the perpetrators are not caught yet, they're not apprehended yet, and it is becoming more and more unlikely that this will happen. In the past, it was the larger brands that applied email authentication, and that was to avoid that large phishing mails were sent out to the broader audience, which was of course very important for retailers, for the Coca-Colas and the Apples of this world. But now we see that every company and every organization can be targeted. Everybody that invoices via email, everybody that does important transactions via email, everyone that exchanges sensitive information through email can and very probably will be a target in the future. All right, next one. Okay, so how are we going to stop this? Very simple. The solution lies in the implementation of these open standards, SPF, DMARC, and DKIM. And I believe most of you would have heard of SPF. Everybody working with Office 365 has probably come across this. DMARC and DKIM are usually a little grayed out. The only thing successful is actually the combination of these three standards, and Walter will explain why. But this combination is in fact not that new. It celebrated its 10th anniversary. Well, it did so last year, so it will soon be celebrating its 11th anniversary. And these are open standard protocols. So these are in fact free of charge to use. What are they about? Well, will be making certain publications at the DNS level, and this will trigger security checks made by the mail recipients. So in a nutshell, you will let the world know which mail servers can mail on your behalf, that'd be SPF, what the digital watermark looks like on your emails, that'd be DKIM, and that both the standing address and the content of the mail should be checked, DMARC. This is something that Walter will explain a little more in depth. The only problem is that setting these things up is not all that easy. It's a rather complicated affair, and the process itself has been named as elegant as, I quote, a crashing Boeing 747. And you would get lost in the jungle of data and obstacles without any support. This is something that we do, and this is something that we gladly shine a light upon. That's what we're for. But more about that right away. I'd like to summarize the advantages of these protocols. For starters, security, you will be ensuring that only your own organization can email on behalf of your own organization, so no more phishing in your name. On a visibility level, you will get a 100% view of all worldwide mail traffic on behalf of you and your organization. And this would be both the legitimate and the non-legitimate. Of course, the non-legitimate will be blocked. That is the whole purpose of this. Delivery then, because the authenticity of your emails is highly verifiable, the confidence in your brand name and in your domain name will increase, and this would improve the deliverability of, for example, your marketing emails with an average of 10%. So apart from security, there is a utility function here, and marketing services will record much higher returns on investments after you've implemented this. And this is a tip I'm giving you when you're approaching your customer. Investments in these type of solutions can be paid partly or entirely with money from the marketing budget. This is something that we see quite often. And then on the identity level, because your mail is so identifiable, you will also greatly reduce the chance of blacklisting. Okay, I think that would set out largely why this is useful and why this is useful right now and more useful than it was about 5 years ago. I am giving the microphone to Walter. He'll be explaining on a more technical level what we are talking about and how this is implemented. Walter?
Hello, good morning. So we were going to go more in depth on why these three protocols, well, in fact, fixes email. Because today, as Hendrik pointed from the source is or the domain presented to the recipient, that it is in fact coming from that organization. So with the implementation of DMARC, your recipient can know that the email is also coming from your organization. So where where the mail is coming from, it's actually true. So DMARC fixes that with the authentication protocols DKIM and SPF. So in fact, DMARC is a building block on top of SPF and DKIM. If you're only doing DKIM today, SPF today, you will stop easily forged emails, but emails that are more advancedly forged, you won't be able to stop them with SPF. So DMARC is the building block that ties together DKIM and SPF email authentication. So each protocol protects certain types of the email. Like SPF, it protects the envelope from address, or also known as the reply to path. Then DKIM gives the recipient's system a validation that the email did actually originate from a valid source. And it even protects the body against modification in transit. So even if your email is being forwarded or redirected by any organization, if the body gets modified, so the content gets modified, DKIM can detect that. And then, as you know or not know, the SPF domain, or the domain that SPF protects, is not the one that the recipient sees as the from address in his mail system. So DMARC also ties together then the SPF and the DKIM authentications. So the recipient knows where to look to provide reports to the domain owner about messages that pass or fail authentications. So you get an insight on who is sending emails with your brand name or your domain name. So I go a bit more in depth on the security part. So if you have successfully implemented DMARC, you can see abuse with your domain name. Without DMARC, if a third-party scammer emails to another third party, you don't know about it until the recipient of that email contacts your organization and says, hey, is this what is this email? Is it real? And then you must say, oh no, it's not coming from. Well, with DMARC, you can see the abuse and you can see how much got rejected or not. Visibility. So the security parts block illegitimate use of your domain name, but also will give you insight in all the valid sources. So if I ask today IT managers, hey, IT manager, do you know 100% which email sources your organization is using? If the company is older than 1 year, they don't know. So nobody can really answer that question on who is sending email with your domain name. Well, with DMARC, you will gain insight in which applications in the cloud or on-premise behind your IP address, who are using your domain name and how authenticated they are sending out email today. So in fact, your identity is easily to be checked by the recipient. So how more people are going to implement DMARC, how safer email gets. So this screenshot is from Gmail, from a domain that has not implemented DMARC. And Gmail is simply saying that they can't verify that domain because it's, yeah, today an email, you can send very easy an email with a command prompt like doing a telnet session, or there are even applications on the internet where you can simply fill out the from address. So in essence, you can't prevent anybody from sending an email with your domain name. What you can do is implement the email authentication protocols, and then the recipient can verify that identity, the domain that where the email is saying it's coming from. So that better identity will give you better delivery. So as Hendrik pointed out, marketing will be also be happy to have these protocols implemented on your email flows, because yeah, there is a chance that emails is arriving in the spam or junk mail boxes, because identity can be verified, deliverability will be higher, resulting in more clicks and maybe more sales. So if you have any technical questions, please feel free to post them in the questions tab of this presenting application. And Hendrik, maybe back to you.
All right. Looking at the deliverables, it's quite simple. You will be increasing safety, deliverability, visibility, and identifiability, which makes it virtually impossible to send false emails to your organization, customers, or the general public in your name. So what is in our proposal? We have created a subscription formula for domain security. This is a subscription with a fixed monthly or yearly fee, where we offer bundled services which you can easily take to your customers, resell those to your customers. Prices and the questions you have to ask to calculate in which bracket they will be. I'll be sending you in the following email. So what is in the formula, what is in the subscription formula? It all starts with an audit on the email traffic to identify all legitimate email sources, something that is very necessary, because if you don't, the risk of closing down a scanner or a web application or things like that is very large. So first we monitor what is using emails today. That is part of the subscription. The next step would be a guided implementation of SPF, DKIM, and DMARC up until the reject phase, where everything is correctly implemented and the domain or domains, if the company has several, which is usually the case, is protected outside your network. This will automatically increase the reputation of your emails, and the tooling we use behind this will deliver continuous insight into your worldwide mail traffic, both legitimate and illegitimate, but the illegitimate will of course be stopped. And of course, for the contract duration, there will be support coming from us, and this support is very, very necessary because things change. You'll be adding domains, you will be subtracting domain names, aliases, there will be migrations, there will be new web applications, new devices that email through your name, and those would have to be implemented, and that is of course all part of our support. The cost behind the subscription would be a division between consultancy for startup, the various tooling to make the implementation, and of course the support process to make this all possible, support itself, of course. And we will be sending you those packages and some of the key questions you need to ask in order to get these to the customer. If you want to take this to the customer, if there are further questions, if you want a more technical session on this, we are always keeping ourselves limited to 30 minutes for our webinars to not take more of your time than absolutely necessary, but it does mean that we can't go into too much technical depth. But if you are interested in this, feel free to contact us and we will gladly set you up and help you along. I believe if there are no questions, that this was in a nutshell what we wanted to convey to you. There will be an email following with commercial explanations, the rates, and the proposed end customer prices, and 2 simple markers you need to determine the right price. If there are any questions now, feel free to ask them. If you have questions later, do not hesitate to contact me or Walter. You are our trusted partner. We are very happy to help you. So no obstacles there. If Walter does not have anything to add, then I think there's nothing left for me but to thank you for your time and your attention, and to wish everyone a very nice afternoon. And I would love to hear from you very soon. Thank you very much. Have a great afternoon. Goodbye.
Yes, thank you very much. Have a great day. Bye-bye.